Right, before we start again, just a brief go over basically to make sure before you do anything that the rotary valve is blocked. As I said before, if you don't do that and you drop a screw in there, you're taking the engine apart. So this is the drive cog I was on about that drives the pump. So that goes into here and it turns, and our pump then pumps 2-stroke from there, from this pipe, in this side, out that side, through here, along and up. Simple as that. That spins when the engine's running. Now I can feel resistance, even though that's in as if it was on the throttle's wide open position there. So as you pull it back, that should put more pressure on that. Yeah, you can't really, you can feel it slightly. I'd be lying if I say you can't feel it, but you can slightly. So right, we'll put this back in again, or we'll have no auto lube. That's nice and solid. And then we want our gasket, which is this beastie, and again on the bottom, stick it on and try and keep your finger in the middle, because what we're after here is all these gaskets to line up basically. So I'm putting my finger back in there again and drop the airbox in place. Sorry, I knocked you again. That's not in place. I will zoom in a minute and show you what we're looking for. It should be a bit easier to get in than this, but there we go. So put our pump back in place, in line, over the pump. And right, what you can do now, if you take your bolts that hold on the carburetor, in this case we've got the Allen bolts, don't need the washers, just the 2 bolts, yep, and stick them in the holes as if you're going to mount the carburetor. What that's doing is it's making sure that the gaskets are lined. So front one's just in lightly and the back one, gaskets in line there. So, and we take our Allen bolt, which I've dropped on the floor there for some reason, and just tighten that down a tad. I'm not tightening it at all. All I'm using it for is a liner upper, for lack of a better word. So they're only going to be until they touch the casing. That's one, and the other one. It does seem like overkill, but you are relying on that base gasket to stop your 2-stroke basically leaking out. So see what I mean? It's not tight, it's just there lining up. And put your finger in, make sure the gasket's in place. Perfect. Right, there is a screw, if you remember, holding this down. So we're looking for, which I've already seen, but we're looking for that cheese head screw, and it doesn't have a washer, which always surprises me, but whatever. Whether it won't take a washer because it's too high. But you stick that in its hole, get your screwdriver and basically tighten that up. And because we've got our screws in here, we can't move that out of position. I don't know if that actually went in there, did it? Yes, it did. Right, so our screw's in, and I'm tightening that up. Nearly done. That's as tight as I can do it without going mad on it. I'll grab hold of the camera and move you in there again, so you can see that the screw's in there, and you can see that I've got the rotary valve closed, and our two bolts now can come out. I'll just stick that back in there and stand you back up again. And bring you down. As I say, unfortunately these cameras don't have zoom on them. That just proves that I've not done it uptight. I'm taking it out with my fingers, and what I'm going to do then is get the carburetor mounted, because that's too, I can't get a hand in there. So I need the gasket that goes between the carburetor and the airbox now. What we will discuss as well is, because we got our grommet in place here at the back, right at the back here, we need to come in at an angle so that the air screw goes in that. Trying to put that back in place with the carburetor in place, oh, good luck, that's all I can say. That'd be better stood there, or on there, probably on there. The trouble is it's non-magnetic there. That'll be in the way of the camera. I'll give some light anyway, so I'm just going to get the carburetor gasket, that short gasket underneath the carburetor. We'll stick that back up there because that's going to be in my way. It's just a shame it's not powerful enough just to take the weight there and stand. It'll fall off anyway, but right. So if I lean through and get my carburetor, excuse me while I'm with you again. And if you remember on the bottom, that gasket has got to go and leave the oil way free. So that's where our two-stroke oil comes up. So it goes in that way. What I've found best to do is just stick it in on there in place. It doesn't move a vast way out the way, and then put this in first. So slide that back and in the hole, and then down. It's had more than that. Right, we're in. And then what you're basically trying to do is, I can get you down there again, is look in them holes where the Allen bolts go. It's kind of hard to show you, but you want these free. The front and the back one need to be free. That way you know the gasket's in line. And the best way to do that is with a screwdriver. You can, if they're close, like this one's not a million miles out, you can put the bolts in if you want to, but Phillips screwdriver, perfect for the job, or in this case I'm going to use my Lambretta one. And you can't see that unfortunately, so I'll stand you back up here. Again, the camera is banging the way, but whatever. That one's pretty good at the back. That's fine. And this one, that's fine now. Right. So what we need to do is get our washers. for our Allen bolts. One, two, and just put them on the screws. Try not to drop them on the floor. And just put them in place. Make sure they don't drop in, like hold them with your finger. And then what you do is just move them. I see that's fallen straight in because I did use a screwdriver. And then on the back, that's fallen straight in as well. And again, everything seems to be falling down because it's too close. But, I'm just going to start them off with the the Allen key. So what I'm going to do is just give that a wiggle. That's already in. And what we're trying to do here is we want it to be flat. So you don't want one tight and one loose and then tighten up the other one. You want both of them to be tightened bit, so that it goes in nice and level. There's tons to go there yet. You can start feeling that pulling forward. So do some on the back again. That's just dragging on the back. And tightening on the front and the back and the front and the back and the front. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to I've got a long and a short H8 H8. A short one in there and the long one in the back. And what I'm going to do is tighten them by a quarter of a turn. Right, so here we go, quarter of a turn, let go, quarter of a turn, do the front one again. Again, I'm not putting tons and tons of weight on this. That to me is tight enough on the front. You will feel it, and you'll get a feel for doing them. That's tight enough on the back. If you over tighten these, you'll crack the carburetor. So be warned. Right, so that carburetor is in and rock solid. Now we've got a problem of we're going to have to put our tank back, which again is a fiddly job. And what we're after with the tank is, if I can show you in there, we're going to come in at that angle, and the hole that's there for the petrol tap, if you put the tap up so it's in its middle position, we're aiming for that to go through, and then we need below where the oil sight is, that needs to line up as well. And also we need our petrol through the petrol one, and we need our oil feed through this top one, so that everything then is lined up. So what I've done is I've left the petrol in the tank, so I'm just going to drain that off, and what I'll probably do is start that as a separate rebuild one now. We've got our carburetor in, our airboxes in, and we've rebuilt the auto lube mechanism. So they say there's no way of priming these. It's one of them where what I tend to do is I'll make sure there's no air in this pipe. I'll explain as I build it anyway, but what I try and do is get all of the air out of this pipe, so we've got oil right the way into the pump, and then just put a litre of petrol in with 2% in it. Don't put 5 litres in because you won't need it. Then what you do is you run the bike and you're looking at the pipe itself, and you'll see bubbles coming along. You'll know that it's pumping. If you don't see any bubbles moving, then we've got an air leak on the pump itself, or it's not being driven from the engine while it's running. Then obviously you only got a litre of petrol in there. It's not so much to to take this off and re-jig it again. But we should have a nice seal between our airbox and our carburetor, because we've got 2 paper seals on there, and we've also got a new paper seal on our oil feed mechanism. You can, if you want to, put the cables in now and open this throttle. You can use a screwdriver, etc., and just hook that back in place while you've got no pipes in the way. To me, it doesn't make any difference really whether you put the choke on or not. So we've got the choke cable straight in there. I could put that on now and hook that in. It swings and roundabouts really what you want to do. Your throttle cable again in through the hole, and because we've already had this on a bike, we shouldn't need to adjust anything. So that's on the top. That's the easiest cable you can actually put in. So that's, if I turn the throttle up now, that cable's in, and what it's doing is it's pulling on the mechanism. I might as well put them in seeing as we're on this video. So we need our pair of long nose pliers, which are back at the bench. So off we go again. Right, so that's gone over the cable that way. And that's our choking, believe it or not. And just make sure that the choke works. Yep. Yep. Just going to straighten that cable out. That's better. Yeah, it's not touching the auto lube mechanism. So what I'm going to do now is let's put you in there again. The throttle, that metal black pull rod there needs to go in that hole. Get that out of the way. Maybe that might sit there and do us a favour. So that hole where my finger is, yep, that black rod goes into there, and it's got a straight hook. So I don't know if I can do this with the camera in the way. No, I can't, unfortunately. But you just turn the rod so that the right angle is facing you or facing away from you. I've got it facing me at the moment, and pull it up and pull the lever for the auto lube back until our black lead then goes over the top of it. I'll keep calling it a lead, but it's a rod. What you can do obviously is pull it out as well, so we can pull our throttle up as if it's all fully open. That's it. And then what this does as well is it pulls on the cable. What's the easiest way? Put a screwdriver in. Put that down the back of the slide and push the slide up. And then I've taken all the pressure off of the spring. Right, and I'm not out enough because that needs to come back, Ted. And it's trying to go under, but I want it on top. That's it. The light's nigh on useless where it is. Yep. Right, I've got that in. I've made it look a lot more harder than it actually is. Bring that camera back. So if you can see now where the throttle cable's in and our rod is in as well. If I can leave that somehow poking in there, you can see the actuator, that arm there. So if I hold on to that and then I open my throttle, can you see that moving? Yeah, and closing. Now if I open the throttle and leave it, see it pulling itself back? So that's closing the throttle. That's the return spring. And what it's doing as well is it's turning my throttle on my handlebars back. But that's the motion as you're moving your throttle, that actuator arm basically frees off the cog inside that, so it can spin more freely and pump more. It lets it move up and down more to pump. So you get more oil through the more you rev it. So you're going to get more oil with that fully open than you are tick over. And that's as in its simplest terms how it works. It's a purely mechanical pump driven by the engine via cogs from the crankshaft. I hope somebody's learnt something and not been put off with stories of how bad these are. They're not bad at all. I think they're for a modern commuter vehicle, they're a godsend, to be honest. Perfect for, you know, for being able to use the scooter in town day in, day out. So we've got our choke on, our throttle cables on. Now it's just petrol. So I'm going to stop this video now and we'll start up the next one for the petrol tank to go back in. Bye for now.